The January wind howled across the town square like the wail of a restless ghost. Hooves thundered against the frozen ground as a stranger rode out of the blinding white blizzard. Tall, broad-shouldered, a thick, wild beard swallowed his face, pale gray eyes empty as an open grave. Her father's hands shook as he poured 50 gold coins into a leather pouch. One life bought and sold in broad daylight. She stood motionless beside the wagon spine, straight as iron breath smoking white in the savage cold. The crowd pressed closer, whispers spreading like smoldering fire. Barren. Cursed. Worthless. The stranger halted his horse right in front of her. Those dead eyes swept over her once. No desire, no pity, only a vast, hollow void. He silently extended a large, calloused hand scarred by old violence. She lifted her chin, met that emptiness head-on. Then she took one step forward. Barren. That was the word they used. Not broken, not cursed, not damaged. Barren. Like soil that refuses seed. A woman who had failed at the one thing women were supposed to do. Rosalind Hartwell heard that word for the first time on a Tuesday in 1873, in Dr. Cornelius Blackwell's office, while her fiancé's mother sat in the corner wearing a smile sharper than any scalpel. The doctor had poked and prodded, asked questions no unmarried woman should have to answer, made pronouncements based on nothing, absolutely nothing, except the cold calculation in Constance Ashford's eyes and the weight of her husband's money in his pocket. "Your daughter shows signs of infertility," Dr. Blackwell had said to Rose's father. Not to Rose, never to Rose, because women apparently didn't need to be consulted about their own bodies. Signs, Silas Hartwell had asked. Hopeful, desperate, already counting the cost of a broken engagement. Clear signs, definitive. "I'm afraid Miss Hartwell will never conceive." The words fell like stones into still water, creating ripples that would spread for years. Rose had sat there, numb, silent, while 3 people decided her future. Her fiancé Richard broke their engagement within a week. His mother had what she wanted, an excuse to rid the family of unsuitable blood. Within a month, Rose couldn't walk down Main Street without hearing whispers. Within 6 months, every door had closed. Within a year, even the farm hands who'd once smiled at her refused to meet her eyes. Barren. Cursed. Empty. Her mother had wept at first, raging at the unfairness of it all. But as the months passed, as Rose's prospects dwindled to nothing, those tears dried into something harder. Resentment. Shame. And finally the cold calculation that would lead to this moment, 3 years later. Standing in the town square, while her father sold her to a stranger for $50. The transaction happened on a freezing January morning, the kind of cold that made your lungs ache with each breath, the kind that turned spit to ice before it hit the ground. Rose stood beside her father's wagon, hands folded, back straight, eyes fixed on the horizon. Because if she looked at the faces around her, she might actually scream. Her brother Matthias wouldn't look at her. Not surprising. Matthias had perfected the art of not looking at problems 3 years ago when his sister became the family shame. "He should be here any minute," Silas muttered. Rose didn't answer. What was there to say? "Thank you for selling me. I appreciate the entrepreneurial spirit. Will I get a cut of the $50? "It's not," Silas started. "Don't. One word, flat, final." Because if he said, "It's not personal," or "It's for the best," Rose was going to lose the last thread of composure holding her together. Matthias cleared his throat, shifted his weight, still wouldn't look. And Rose realized this was shame. Not hers. Theirs. They knew what they were doing, knew it was monstrous, knew that in 50 years when someone told this story, the villains wouldn't be the girl who couldn't have children. The villains would be the father and brother who sold her like livestock because keeping her fed was inconvenient. Good. Let them be ashamed. Let them carry that weight. Rose was done carrying anything that didn't belong to her. The sound of hooves cut through the wind. Rose turned and saw him for the first time. Caleb Stone looked exactly like the rumors said. Tall, broad-shouldered, face hidden behind a beard that had clearly never met a pair of scissors. Hair long enough to brush his collar, dark as the pines surrounding the town, streaked with premature gray that spoke of things seen and survived. But it was his eyes that stopped Rose's breath, gray, pale, like ice over deep water, and utterly, completely, devastatingly empty. This wasn't a man who'd lost his wife. This was a man who'd buried himself alongside her and was currently just going through the motions of breathing. He rode into the square like he owned it, which in a way he did. Everyone in Evergreen Hollow owed Caleb Stone something. Borrowed money, bought cattle, rented land. The mountain man who'd appeared 5 years ago with a young wife and big dreams, then disappeared 2 years ago with neither. People said he'd gone mad with grief. People said he talked to ghosts. People said a lot of things, but nobody said them to his face. Caleb dismounted, moved with the fluid grace of someone whose body remembered violence, combat, survival, the kind of movement you couldn't learn, only earn through experience that should have killed you but didn't. Rose's father stepped forward, hand extended. "Mr. Stone, thank you for coming down." Caleb looked at the hand, didn't take it, looked at Rose instead. And for one moment, one brief, startling moment, Rose saw something flicker behind that gray emptiness. Recognition, not of her specifically, but of what she was. Another broken thing. Caleb's voice was rough, unused, like gravel under wagon wheels. "Rosalind, my daughter, I know what she is." The words landed like stones. Rose lifted her chin, met his eyes. Because she'd be damned if she'd look away first, be damned if she'd give this stranger, this buyer, the satisfaction of seeing her flinch. They stared at each other. The whole square held its breath. And then Caleb did something Rose didn't expect. He looked away first, turned to Silas, pulled a small leather pouch from his coat. 50, as agreed. Silas took it, counted the coins with shaking hands. Gold glinted dully in the winter light. Rose watched her father's face. Relief flickered first, then shame tried to surface. Relief won. "She's a hard worker," Silas said, voice too loud, too eager. "Good cook, knows her way around a house, won't give you any trouble." Caleb said nothing, just stood there, waiting. "She's clean," Matthias added. Couldn't help himself. Had to contribute something to the sales pitch. Untouched, if you understand my meaning. Rose's stomach turned. They were describing her like a horse at auction. Strong legs, good teeth, guaranteed not to bite. "I don't care," Caleb said, and somehow that was worse than caring, because it meant Rose wasn't even worth evaluating, wasn't worth the effort of inspection. She was just a body, a presence, someone to fill the empty spaces in a cabin so the silence didn't swallow him whole. Silas pocketed the money, stepped back. "She's all yours then." Rose waited for Caleb to say something. Claim her, give orders. Instead, he walked to his horse, mounted, looked down at her with those dead gray eyes. "You coming or staying?" Not a question, really. More like a challenge. Rose looked at her father, her brother, the crowd that had gathered to watch Evergreen Hollow's greatest shame finally leave town. Then she looked at the mountain, at the wilderness rising beyond the town's edge, at the unknown, at everything she'd been taught to fear, and made her choice. "I'm coming." She crossed the frozen ground. Caleb extended his hand. She took it. His grip was strong, calloused, warm despite the cold. He pulled her up behind him. Rose settled onto the horse arms wrapping around his waist because there was nowhere else to hold. Caleb didn't flinch, didn't react, just turned the horse toward the mountain. And they rode, away from Evergreen Hollow, away from the whispers and the judgment and the 3 years of shame, toward something unknown, something that might kill her or might somehow save her. The ride took 3 hours. 3 hours of silence broken only by wind and the steady rhythm of hooves on frozen ground. 3 hours of Rose's mind spinning through every possible future. He could kill her, bury her on the mountain where nobody would ever find the body. Who would question it? Who would care? She was barren, worthless, already written off by everyone who'd ever claimed to love her. Or worse, he could keep her alive, use her, hurt her, turn her into something less than human. Because that's what men did when they had power and women had none. Rose's arms tightened around Caleb's waist. He didn't react, just kept riding. Up, always up. The town disappeared behind them. Trees closed in. The path narrowed until it was barely wide enough for the horse. Snow began to fall, soft at first, then harder, until the world was white and Rose couldn't tell where earth ended and sky began. "How much farther?" Her voice sounded small against the wind. "Another hour. We'll freeze before then." "No, we won't." "How do you know?" "Because I've done this ride 100 times in worse weather. You learn or you die." I learned. Rose didn't know if that was supposed to be reassuring. The temperature dropped. Rose's teeth started to chatter. Caleb noticed. Of course he noticed. Mountain men noticed everything. Because noticing was the difference between survival and death. "There's a blanket in the saddlebag, left side." Rose reached, fumbled, found thick wool. She pulled it around both of them, and realized she was now wrapped around Caleb Stone like some kind of desperate barnacle. "Sorry," she muttered. "For what?" "Invading your space." "You paid for the space, might as well use it, might as well use it." The bitterness in his voice surprised her, because it meant he wasn't empty after all. He was angry. Good. Rose understood anger. They rode in silence. The snow fell harder. The world disappeared. Everything became white and wind and the warmth of Caleb's back against Rose's chest. She found herself noticing things. The way he sat his horse, confident, natural, like the animal was an extension of himself. The breadth of his shoulders. The steady rhythm of his breathing. The fact that despite everything, despite the cold and the circumstances and the transaction that had brought them together, he radiated a kind of competence that was almost reassuring. This was a man who knew how to survive. And as long as Rose stayed close, maybe she could survive too. Finally, the cabin appeared through the trees. Small, rough-hewn logs, stone chimney, single window that glowed with lamplight. Caleb had left a lamp burning, which meant some part of him had believed he'd come back. Some part of him was still fighting. He dismounted first, then reached up for Rose. His hands spanned her waist, lifting her down like she weighed nothing. For a moment they stood close enough that Rose could see the ice crystals caught in his beard, could smell wood smoke and leather, and something distinctly male. Then he stepped back. "Inside. I'll deal with the horse." Rose pushed open the cabin door, stepped into warmth, and stopped. Because the cabin was clean. Not just clean, immaculate. Swept floors, organized shelves, dishes stacked neatly beside a basin, a fire already laid in the hearth waiting to be lit. This was a man who'd maintained order in the face of chaos, who'd refused to let grief turn his life into squalor, who'd kept Catherine's memory alive by keeping her home exactly as she'd left it. Rose moved deeper inside, one room divided into sections by nothing more than function and habit. Kitchen area to the left, table and 2 chairs in the middle, a narrow bed in the far corner tucked behind a curtain that had been pulled back, and a ladder leading to a loft, where Rose saw the edge of a quilt, Caleb's bed, where he slept alone, where he'd slept alone for 2 years. The door opened behind her. Caleb stepped inside, shook snow from his coat, hung it on a peg. Fires in the hearth, matches on the mantel, food's in the pantry if you're hungry. All business, all instruction, like he was briefing a soldier not welcoming a person into his home. Rose turned to face him. "Where do I sleep?" Caleb pointed to the bed in the corner. "There." "And you?" "Loft." "We're not—" "No." The word cut clean. Final. Rose exhaled. Relief first, then confusion. Because if Caleb didn't want her for that, then what did he want? "I don't understand," she said quietly. "You paid $50 for a housekeeper you could have hired for $5 a month. You brought me to a mountain in winter. You're giving me your bed. What do you want from me?" Caleb was silent for a long moment. Then he looked at her with those empty gray eyes. "I want you to stay alive through winter. That's all. Just be here. Be alive. So when I wake up at 3 in the morning hearing Catherine scream, I have proof that not everyone I bring to this mountain dies." The words hung between them, raw, honest, devastating. This wasn't about Rose at all. This was about a man so deep in his own trauma that he'd bought another human being just to have proof he wasn't alone. Rose should have been angry, should have raged against being reduced to an emotional support animal. Instead, she understood. Because she'd been alone too. surrounded by people but utterly, completely alone. "Okay," she said. Caleb blinked. "Okay. I'll stay alive through winter. I'm good at that. Staying alive when everyone expects you to disappear. It's basically my only skill at this point." Something that might have been a smile flickered across Caleb's face, died before it reached his eyes. "There's stew in the pot. Probably cold by now, but edible. Eat, sleep. Tomorrow I'll show you around." He moved toward the ladder, stopped, turned back. "Rules," he said. "Of course there are. You stay on your side of the cabin. I stay on mine. You don't touch Catherine's things. You don't ask me about the war. You don't try to fix me." Each rule landed like a stone. Rose nodded. "Anything else?" "Yeah, if you want to leave come spring, you leave. No questions, no obligations. I'll take you wherever you want to go." "You'd let me go, just like that." "I'm not keeping prisoners. I'm keeping company. There's a difference." Caleb climbed the ladder, disappeared into the loft. Rose stood alone in the cabin, listening to the wind howl outside, listening to the silence inside, and realized she'd just made a deal with a ghost. Rose woke to the sound of an axe, steady, rhythmic, the crack of wood splitting, echoing across the mountain. She sat up, disoriented. Where? Oh. Right. The cabin. The mountain. The man who'd bought her. Rose pushed back the blankets. Heavy wool that smelled like pine and smoke and something distinctly male. Caleb must have covered her after she'd fallen asleep at the table last night, too exhausted to make it to the bed. Thoughtful. Or maybe just practical. Frozen house guests were probably less useful than warm ones. She moved to the window. Outside, Caleb was shirtless despite the cold chopping wood with mechanical precision. Swing, crack, split, over and over, and Rose could see the scars, dozens of them crisscrossing his back like some kind of terrible map. Knife wounds, bullet wounds, things that should have killed him but didn't. This wasn't just a man who'd survived loss. This was a man who'd survived violence. Caleb glanced up, saw her watching, stopped, grabbed his shirt from where it hung on the woodpile and pulled it on. And Rose understood. The scars weren't something he displayed. They were something he hid. Evidence of a past he didn't want examined. Over the following days, a routine emerged. Caleb woke before dawn and worked outside. Rose kept the cabin, cooked, cleaned. They spoke little, but the silence wasn't hostile, just careful. Two wounded animals circling each other. On the fourth day, Caleb took her to check traps. "You need to learn the mountain," he said. "Learn where the traps are, where the shelter is, where the water stays unfrozen. Because if something happens to me, you need to survive until you can get down." "Nothing's going to happen to you." "You don't know that. I know you're too stubborn to die." Caleb almost smiled. Almost. They walked for hours. Caleb pointing out landmarks, showing her animal tracks, teaching her to read the mountain the way he did as a living thing that could sustain you or kill you depending on whether you paid attention. Rose's feet went numb within an hour, but she didn't complain, because complaining meant admitting weakness, and weakness meant being sent away. "You're limping," Caleb observed. "I'm fine." "You're limping." "I said I'm fine." Caleb stopped walking, turned to face her. "Listen, pride is good. Pride keeps you alive when everything else says quit. But stupid pride gets you killed. Your feet are cold. Probably past cold. Probably into frostbite territory. We need to get you warm, now." "I don't want to be a burden." "Too late. You already are. Everyone on this mountain is a burden, including me. That's the deal. We carry each other, or we all die. Now sit." Rose sat on a fallen log in the middle of nowhere while a stranger knelt in the snow and unlaced her boots. "These aren't rated for this weather," Caleb muttered. "They're all I have." "Then we'll get you better ones." He pulled off her boots, her stockings. Rose's feet were gray-white. Not good. Caleb swore, pulled off his own coat and wrapped it around Rose's feet. "We're going back, now." "I can walk." "No, you can't." He stood, scooped Rose up like she weighed nothing, started walking back toward the cabin. Rose clutched his shoulders. "This is unnecessary. Shut up. Excuse me. You're arguing about frostbite. That's stupid, so shut up and let me do what needs doing before you lose toes." Rose shut up. Not because he told her to, but because he was right. And because being carried by Caleb Stone was disconcerting. He was warm, despite the cold, despite everything. His body radiated heat like a furnace. Rose found herself leaning closer. Caleb adjusted his grip, held her tighter, and Rose realized this was the first time in 3 years anyone had touched her with care. Not with disgust, not with pity, just care. Back at the cabin, Caleb deposited Rose in the rocking chair, Catherine's rocking chair. Rose started to protest. "Don't," Caleb said. "It's the closest to the fire. Your feet need heat." Catherine would understand. He knelt, unwrapped his coat, examined Rose's feet with clinical efficiency. "Not frostbite yet, but close. We need to warm them slowly. Too fast and you'll damage the tissue." He disappeared, came back with a basin of lukewarm water, gently lowered Rose's feet into it. Rose gasped, because even lukewarm felt like boiling. "I know. I'm sorry, but it has to be done." Caleb stayed kneeling, hands on either side of the basin, watching her feet like they were the most important thing in the world. "You were in the war," Rose said. It wasn't a question. Caleb's jaw tightened. "I told you not to ask about that." "You told me not to ask. You didn't tell me not to observe. And I'm observing that you move like a soldier, talk like a soldier, react like someone who's seen combat. Observant. One of my few talents." Caleb was silent. Then, Fetterman Massacre, 1866. I was one of 2 survivors out of 81 men. Rose's breath caught. She'd heard of Fetterman. Everyone had. The worst military disaster on the plains before Custer. "How?" "I don't talk about it." "But you just—" "I acknowledged it. That's different than talking about it." "Fair enough." Rose let the silence sit. Caleb checked her feet, nodded. "Color's coming back. That's good." "Thank you." "For what?" "Caring whether I keep my toes." "I care whether everyone keeps their toes. It's not personal." But the way he said it made it sound personal. That evening after dinner, Rose found the book. Poetry. Pages loose, binding broken. She repaired it carefully with thread from a sewing box. When Caleb came in from his work, he stopped short at the sight of the book lying on the table. "You fixed it," he said, picking it up carefully. "I hope that's all right," Rose replied. "I saw it was damaged and I thought—" "It was my wife's," Caleb interrupted quietly. "Catherine. She loved poetry, used to read to me in the evenings." His voice softened when he said her name. Catherine, the ghost between them. "I'm sorry. I didn't know." "No reason you should." Caleb ran his fingers over the repaired spine. "Thank you for fixing it. I've been meaning to do it myself for 2 years. But He trailed off. And Rose understood. Sometimes the pain of touching something beloved was too much to bear. "I can read it to you," she offered impulsively. "If you'd like. The way she used to." Caleb looked up sharply, and for a moment Rose thought she'd overstepped terribly. But then his expression softened in a way she hadn't seen before. "I'd like that," he said, "if it's not too much trouble." So that night, after dinner had been cleared away, Rose opened the book of poetry and began to read by the firelight. Her voice was soft and slightly hesitant at first. But as she lost herself in the words Wordsworth Coleridge Shakespeare, it grew stronger. Caleb sat in his chair, eyes closed, and listened. When she finally stopped, the fire had burned low, and the night had grown deep around them. "Catherine had a better voice for it," Caleb said, opening his eyes. "But that was good. Thank you." It became their evening ritual. After the work was done and darkness had fallen, Rose would read while Caleb listened. They didn't talk much otherwise. Caleb wasn't a talkative man by nature, and Rose had learned over the years that silence was often safer than speech. But the poetry seemed to create a space where they could both exist without the weight of expectation or judgment. Rose woke to someone screaming. She bolted upright, heart hammering. The screaming continued, raw, anguished, coming from the loft. "Caleb." Rose threw off the blankets, hesitated. He'd said not to cross boundaries, but this wasn't normal. She climbed the ladder, found Caleb tangled in sheets, eyes closed, still screaming. "Catherine, Catherine, hold the baby, hold him." Rose's throat closed. This wasn't just a nightmare. This was the nightmare, the one that had been playing on repeat for 2 years. She knelt beside him. "Caleb, Caleb, wake up." He didn't hear her. "Catherine, please, please don't die. I need you. He needs you." Rose touched his shoulder. Caleb exploded into motion, grabbed her wrist, flipped her onto her back, hand around her throat. Eyes open but not seeing, still trapped in whatever hell his mind had created. Rose froze, because fighting would make it worse. Fighting would convince Caleb's subconscious she was an enemy, so she went limp. "It's Rose," she whispered. "It's just Rose. You're safe. We're safe." Caleb blinked, focused, saw her, saw what he was doing, released her like she'd burned him. "Jesus, Jesus Christ. Did I hurt you?" Rose sat up, rubbing her throat. It would bruise, but she was fine. "I'm okay. I could have killed you, but you didn't." "Rose, it was a nightmare. You didn't know where you were. It's fine." "It's not fine." Caleb was shaking, whole body trembling. Rose did the only thing she could think of. She reached out, took his hand. "Tell me about her, about Catherine." "Why? Because she's still here, in this cabin, in your head. And maybe if you talk about her, she'll hurt less." Caleb stared at their joined hands. Then slowly he started talking. "She was light. That's the only way I can describe it. She made everything lighter, easier. I met her in Denver after the war. I was broken, angry, drinking myself to death. She worked at a boarding house, saw me trying to start a fight with 3 men twice my size, stepped between us, told them I wasn't worth their time, told me I wasn't worth mine either unless I figured out what I was trying to prove." Rose listened, didn't interrupt. "We got married 3 months later, moved up here. She loved the mountain, loved the quiet. Said after growing up in a city, silence was luxury. We were happy, really happy. And then she got pregnant, and I thought, this is it. This is everything. A wife, a child, a future." His voice broke. "She started bleeding at 7 months. The midwife said bed rest, said the baby was coming early but might survive. I rode for the doctor. 3 hours down, 3 hours back. By the time we got here, the baby was born. Dead. Had been dead for hours. And Catherine, she was hemorrhaging. Nothing could stop it. She died asking me to take care of our son, not understanding he was already gone." Silence. Heavy. Suffocating. "I buried them together," Caleb said, "in a grave behind the cabin, under the pine tree she loved, and I told myself I'd follow them soon. But I couldn't, because I was too much of a coward to pull the trigger, so I just stayed, waiting for the mountain to do what I couldn't." Rose squeezed his hand. "I'm sorry." "Don't be. It's not your grief to carry." "Maybe not, but I can sit with you while you carry it." Caleb looked at her. Really looked. "Why are you being kind?" "Because someone should be, and there's no one else here." "That's the only reason," Rose considered. "No, I'm being kind because you were kind first. You could have treated me like property, but you haven't. You gave me a bed, warm clothes, saved my feet. You're decent, despite everything, and decency deserves decency." Caleb's thumb brushed across her knuckles, absent, unconscious, but there. "You should go back to bed," he said. "Will you be okay? I've survived 2 years of these nightmares. I'll survive tonight." Rose stood, started toward the ladder, stopped. "Caleb." "Yeah. Thank you for telling me." She climbed down, returned to her bed. But she didn't sleep. She lay there listening to the silence above, hoping the nightmares wouldn't return, hoping that speaking the truth had somehow made the ghost lighter. The storm came 3 weeks after Rose arrived on the mountain. Caleb predicted it a full day in advance. "Storm's coming," he said at breakfast. "Big one. We have maybe 6 hours before it hits." Rose glanced out the window. The sky was clear. "How do you know?" "The wind changed. Smell it. That's snow. Big snow. We need to secure the barn. Bring the horse closer. Stock extra wood. Fill every water container and check the shelter." "What shelter?" "Emergency shelter, half-mile west, in case we get trapped away from the cabin. I need to make sure it's stocked. I'll come. Caleb hesitated. Your feet are fine, and you said it yourself. We carry each other, or we all die. So let me help. Something flickered across his face. Respect, maybe. Fine, but wear these. He tossed her a pair of boots, clearly too big, but lined with fur and rated for serious cold. Where did you? They were Catherine's. She had big feet. You have small feet. Stuffed socks in the toes. Rose looked at the boots, then at Caleb. Are you sure? They're just boots, and dead people don't need warm feet. Blunt, but practical. Rose pulled on the boots. They fit better than expected. She and Caleb worked through the morning, moving supplies, securing shutters, preparing for a storm that Rose couldn't see coming, but Caleb swore was already here. By noon, the first flakes fell. By 1, the world disappeared into white. We need to get to the shelter, Caleb said. Check the supplies. We won't make it back before this gets bad, but there's enough in the shelter to wait it out. How long will it last? Storm like this? 2 days, maybe 3. 2 days, alone with Caleb, in a shelter barely big enough for 2 people. Rose's heart did something complicated. Lead the way. They tied a rope between them, safety line, in case one of them got separated, then walked into the storm. The wind was immediate, vicious. Rose could barely see Caleb 3 feet ahead of her, but she followed, trusted, because what choice did she have? The shelter appeared like a ghost through the snow, small, 3-sided, barely deserving the name, but it had a roof, walls, firewood stacked inside. Caleb pushed Rose in first, followed, sealed the entrance with a tarp weighted by rocks, and suddenly they were alone. In a space barely 8 feet by 8 feet, with a storm raging outside. Well, Rose said, this is cozy. Caleb almost smiled, almost. I'll get a fire started. You check the supplies. Rose dug through the small cache. Dried meat, hard biscuits, coffee, blankets. Enough to survive, not enough to be comfortable. Behind her, Caleb coaxed fire from tinder. Smoke rose, found the gap in the roof designed for exactly that purpose. Heat began to fill the small space. Rose settled against the back wall. Caleb sat opposite. So, Rose said, what do people do trapped in shelters for 2 days? Usually pray they don't freeze to death. And when they're confident about not freezing, I don't know. I've never been trapped with anyone who wasn't freezing. Well, lucky me, I'm your first. The words hung between them. Innocent, but somehow not. Caleb cleared his throat. Tell me about Evergreen Hollow, about your life before. Before I was declared barren. Yeah, Rose considered. I was normal, average, the kind of girl who'd grow up, marry respectably, have children, fade into the background of someone else's life, and I was fine with that, because I didn't know there were other options. Then Dr. Blackwell made his pronouncement, and suddenly I wasn't average anymore. I was notorious. The girl who couldn't, the daughter who failed, the woman no one wanted. That's not true. Which part? The part where no one wanted you. I wanted you. Enough to pay $50. You wanted a warm body. That's different than wanting me. Is it? The question surprised her. Isn't it? She countered. Caleb was quiet. Then, I don't know anymore. 3 days ago you were a transaction. Now you're a person. Who makes coffee without being asked? Who climbs ladders during nightmares? Who doesn't flinch when I talk about death? You're real. As opposed to what? As opposed to the fantasy I'd built, that I could buy silence, buy presence, without having to actually interact with another human being. Turns out you can't do that. Turns out people are people, even when you try to make them props. Rose pulled her knees to her chest. Is that an apology? It's an observation. It sounds like an apology. Then maybe it is. They sat in silence. The storm howled outside, but inside was warm. The hours passed. They talked in fits and starts, about nothing, about everything, about the mountain and the war and Catherine and Dr. Blackwell and all the ghosts that haunted them both. Night fell. The temperature dropped. Even with the fire, the cold crept in. "We should sleep," Caleb said. "Conserve body heat." They arranged the blankets, lay down on opposite sides of the fire. But the cold was relentless. Rose shivered, tried to hide it, failed. "Come here," Caleb said. "What?" "You're freezing. I'm warm. Basic survival. Come here." Rose hesitated, then moved. Because he was right. This was survival. Nothing more. She settled against him, back to his chest. His arm came around her waist, holding her close, and Rose realized this was the most intimate she'd been with anyone in 3 years. And it felt safe, comfortable, right. "Caleb." "Yeah." "Can I ask you something?" "Depends on the question." "When you bought me, did you plan to, "No. Immediate. Definitive." "Why not, Mom?" "Because that's not who I am. I've done a lot of things I'm not proud of, but forcing myself on someone isn't one of them." "Even if she's technically your property." "You're not property. The law might say otherwise, but I don't care what the law says. You're a person, with choices and agency, and if anything ever happened between us, it would be because we both chose it, not because of money." Rose's chest tightened. "That's good to know." "Is it?" "Yeah, because I've been terrified for 3 weeks that you'd expect something, and I didn't know how to say no without losing the only shelter I have." Caleb's arm tightened around her. "Rose, listen. I will never expect anything you don't freely offer. And if you want to leave tomorrow, I'll take you. If you want to leave in spring, I'll take you. If you want to stay forever but never touch me, that's fine. I'm not keeping you for sex. I'm keeping you for company, proof of life, whatever you want to call it." "What if I wanted more?" The words escaped before Rose could stop them. Caleb froze. "What?" Rose's face heated. "Nothing. Forget I said anything." "Rose, I'm tired. I'm going to sleep." She closed her eyes, tried to will herself unconscious. Behind her, Caleb didn't move. Finally, "Rose." "What?" "If you wanted more, I'd consider it." Her heart stopped. "Consider it? I'm not ready to promise anything, but I'm not saying no either." Rose rolled over, looked at him across the dying firelight. "Why?" "Because you're beautiful, and kind, and stronger than you know. And I'm lonely. So lonely I bought another human being just to not be alone. And maybe that loneliness is starting to look less like grief and more like possibility." They stared at each other. The fire crackled between them. And Rose made a decision. She moved closer, closed the distance. "I'm lonely too," she whispered. Caleb's hand found hers. "Then let's be lonely together." He leaned in, slow, giving her time to retreat. Rose didn't retreat. She met him halfway. Their lips touched, gentle, tentative, like neither of them knew how to do this anymore, like they were relearning what it meant to want, to be wanted. The kiss deepened. Caleb's hand cupped her face. Rose's fingers tangled in his hair. And for the first time in 3 years, Rose felt seen. Not as barren, not as worthless, just as woman, desirable, wanted, real. They broke apart, breathing hard. "We should stop," Caleb said. "Why? Because if we don't stop now, I won't want to stop at all." "What if I don't want you to stop?" "Rose, I'm serious. I'm 24 years old. I was engaged, but Richard never, and then I was declared barren and no one would touch me. And I'm so tired of being untouched, of being treated like I'm contagious. So if you want me, if you want this, then I want it too." Caleb searched her face. "You're sure?" "I've never been more sure of anything. We barely know each other. We've known each other for 3 weeks. That's 3 weeks longer than a lot of people who've done this. And we're trapped in a storm, on a mountain, with nothing but time and blankets. Seems like fate is trying to tell us something." Caleb smiled. A real smile. Small but genuine. "When did you become an optimist?" "When I stopped having anything to lose." He kissed her again. This time no hesitation, no holding back, just need, honest and raw and real. They sank into the blankets. The storm raged outside, but inside the shelter 2 people found warmth in each other, found proof that they were still alive, still capable of feeling, still capable of wanting. Rose woke wrapped in Caleb's arms. The fire had burned to embers. Gray light filtered through cracks in the tarp. Storm over. She turned, found Caleb already awake, watching her. "Hi," she whispered. "Hi." That really happened. "Yeah." "Do you regret it?" Caleb considered. "Ask me in a month." "That's not reassuring." "I know. But it's honest. I don't know what this is yet, what we are. But I know I don't regret last night. And I know I want more nights like it." Rose smiled. "Good answer." They dressed. Caleb kicked apart the embers, buried the fire, packed the supplies. Then they stepped outside into a world transformed. 3 feet of snow, blinding white. Perfect. "We should get back," Caleb said. "Yeah." But neither of them moved. Rose looked at him. Really looked. 3 weeks ago this man was a stranger. Now he was something else. Not quite lover, not quite friend. Something in between. Something undefined. Something that might become everything or nothing. Time would tell. They walked back to the cabin, hand in hand. The rope between them now redundant. Because they were choosing to stay connected. Not because they had to, but because they wanted to. And Rose thought about Dr. Blackwell. About the diagnosis that had destroyed her life. About the word barren. And smiled. Because in 3 weeks, just 3 weeks, Caleb Stone had proven that doctor wrong in the most fundamental way possible. She wasn't broken, wasn't cursed, wasn't barren. She was just a woman who'd been waiting for someone to see her. And now someone finally did. The weeks that followed fell into a new rhythm. Caleb still slept in the loft. But now Rose climbed the ladder most nights, to chase away the nightmares, to share warmth, to be close. They didn't talk about what it meant. Labels felt dangerous. Commitments felt impossible. So they existed in the undefined space between transaction and marriage, between survival and something that might be love. Spring came slowly to the mountain. Ice melted. Green appeared. The world woke from its long winter sleep, and Rose's body began to change. At first she thought it was nothing. The nausea, the exhaustion, the tenderness in her breasts. Symptoms of stress, surely, of adjustment to mountain life. But then she missed her cycle, and missed it again. And the nausea didn't stop. It got worse. Until one morning, 6 weeks after the storm, Rose woke with absolute certainty. She was pregnant. The realization hit like lightning. Terrifying, impossible, undeniable. She pressed a hand to her still flat stomach. Felt nothing. Obviously felt nothing. Too early. But her body knew. Her body was screaming it. Rose stood at the basin, staring at her reflection. Her face looked the same, but everything else was different. "You're up early," Caleb's voice from behind her. Rose didn't turn. "Couldn't sleep." "Nightmares." "No, just thinking." She felt him move closer. His hand settled on her shoulder. Warm, steady. "About what?" Rose met his eyes in the mirror and made a choice. "I need to tell you something." They sat at the table, coffee between them, untouched. Rose's hands wrapped around her cup for warmth she didn't actually need. Caleb waited, patient. But tension radiated from him, because he knew. Whatever this was, it was big. "I'm pregnant," Rose said. Simple, direct, no preamble. The silence that followed was deafening. Caleb didn't move, didn't blink, just stared. Processing. "You're sure?" His voice sounded strangled. "As sure as I can be without a doctor. I'm 6 weeks late. I've been sick every morning for a week. And I just know. The way women know." More silence. Rose watched emotions flicker across Caleb's face. Shock. Disbelief. Fear. So much fear. "But you're barren," he finally said. "They said you were barren." "I know what they said." "So how?" "They were wrong. Dr. Blackwell was wrong, or he lied. I don't know which. Don't care which. Point is, I'm pregnant. We're going to have a baby. Caleb stood. Sudden, violent, chair scraping against wood. No. One word. Flat. Final. Rose's stomach dropped. No, I can't. Rose, I can't do this again. Do what again? Watch someone die. Watch you die trying to give birth to a baby who might already be dead. His voice cracked. Rose stood too, moved toward him. He stepped back, like she was dangerous. I'm not Catherine. I know that. Then stop acting like I'm going to die just because she did. You don't understand. You weren't there. You didn't see. You're right. I wasn't there. But I'm here now. And I'm telling you I'm not giving up this baby. I'm not giving up this chance, because this baby is proof. Proof that Dr. Blackwell was wrong. Proof that I'm not broken. Caleb ran both hands through his hair, a gesture Rose had come to recognize. Stress, overwhelm, the edge of breaking. What if something goes wrong? Then we handle it. How we're 3 hours from the nearest doctor, farther from anyone who knows what they're doing. If you start bleeding, if the baby comes early, if. Rose's voice rose. You can't live your life scared of ifs. I did that for 3 years, let other people's ifs control everything. Well, I'm done. This is happening, with or without your support. So you need to decide, right now. Are you in or out? Caleb looked at her, really looked. And Rose saw it. The moment he broke. I'm terrified, he whispered. I know. Every time I close my eyes, I see Catherine, bleeding, dying, and I can't survive losing someone else. Rose crossed to him. This time he didn't step back. She took his face in both hands, forced him to meet her eyes. Listen to me. You are not going to lose me. I am strong, healthy, young. I have every advantage Catherine didn't. And we're going to get through this, together. But I need you to believe that. Need you to trust me. Can you do that? Caleb's hands came up, covered hers. I don't know. That's fair. But will you try? Long pause. Then, yeah, I'll try. Rose exhaled, relief flooding through her. Good. Because I'm going to need you, this mountain, this pregnancy, this whole situation. It's terrifying, and I can't do it alone. You're not alone. Promise. Promise. They stood there, foreheads pressed together, breathing in sync. And Rose thought, this is it. This is the moment everything changes. Again. The morning sickness was brutal. Rose spent the first hour of every day leaning over a basin, emptying her stomach of nothing because she hadn't eaten yet. Caleb held her hair back, brought her water, said nothing. But his presence was steady, constant, a promise kept. After a week of this, Caleb made a decision. We're going to see Dr. Thornfield. Rose looked up from the basin. What? Dr. Ezekiel Thornfield, in Silver Creek. Old, experienced, delivered half the babies in the territory. We're going to see him. Get you checked. Make sure everything's progressing right. You'd do that? I'd do anything to keep you alive. The words hit hard, heavy with meaning. Rose reached for his hand. Caleb, you have to understand, no matter what he says, no matter what happens, I'm keeping this baby. Caleb's jaw worked. What if it's you or the baby? That's not a choice anyone should make. But if it comes to that, then we'll handle it when it comes, not before. I'm not spending 7 months waiting for disaster. Caleb nodded, but Rose saw it in his eyes. He was already planning, already deciding. If it came down to Rose or the baby, he'd choose Rose, every time, whether she wanted him to or not. They made the journey to Silver Creek in early April when the pass was barely clear, when snow still threatened. But waiting any longer meant Rose would be too far along to travel safely. 3 hours on horseback, Rose's back screaming, her stomach churning. But she didn't complain, because this was important. Proof, documentation, evidence that she wasn't barren. Silver Creek was bigger than Evergreen Hollow, more prosperous. Brick buildings, paved streets, people who didn't stare at strangers like they were carrying plague. Dr. Thornfield's office was on Main Street, above the apothecary. Neat, clean, professional. Rose and Caleb climbed the stairs, knocked. A voice called out, "Come in." The doctor was exactly what Rose expected: old, white-haired, gentle eyes behind wire-rimmed spectacles, the kind of face that inspired trust. "Mr. Stone," Dr. Thornfield said, extending a hand. "It's been too long." Caleb shook. "Dr. Thornfield, this is Rose. I'm pregnant," Rose said, cutting through Caleb's fumbling. "And we need you to confirm it." Dr. Thornfield's eyebrows rose. "I see. Well, congratulations are in order then. Please sit. Let's talk." The examination was thorough, professional. Rose answered questions about her cycle, her symptoms, her medical history. When she mentioned Dr. Blackwell's diagnosis, Dr. Thornfield's expression darkened. "Blackwell," he muttered. "That charlatan is still practicing." "You know him?" Rose asked. "Know of him. He's been running that same con for 20 years. Tells young women they're barren, ruins their prospects, lines his pockets with money from families desperate for explanations. I've tried to have him censured, but he has friends in the territorial government." Caleb leaned forward. "So Rose isn't barren?" "Good Lord, no. Mrs. Stone is perfectly healthy. Based on what you've told me, I'd estimate you're about 8 weeks along, due in late November." Rose's breath caught. 8 weeks. 2 months. Real. This was real. "And the baby?" Caleb asked, voice tight. "Is the baby healthy?" "Too early to tell definitively, but I see no reason for concern. Mrs. Stone is young, strong, no history of complications. Of course, pregnancy always carries risks, but with proper care I see no reason this shouldn't proceed normally." Caleb's shoulders sagged. Relief. Pure, undiluted relief. Rose felt tears prick her eyes. "Thank you," she whispered. Dr. Thornfield smiled. "You're welcome. Now I want to see you again in 2 months. Sooner if you experience any bleeding, severe cramping, or anything that concerns you. And Mr. Stone—" Caleb looked up. "You lost your wife, lost your child. That trauma doesn't disappear just because you want it to. If you need to talk about fears about what happened, my door is open." Caleb nodded, couldn't speak. They left the office in silence, walked back to the horses, mounted, started the long ride home. An hour in, Caleb finally spoke. "I'm sorry." Rose glanced at him. "For what?" "For not believing you, for assuming the worst, for letting fear make me cruel." "You weren't cruel. I told you I couldn't do this. That's pretty damn cruel." "You were honest. There's a difference." Caleb was quiet. Then, "I want to be better. For you. For the baby. But I don't know how." "You start by staying. By not running when things get hard. By choosing us every day, even when you're scared. Especially when you're scared. That simple, that complicated." Caleb almost smiled. "We're going to have a baby." "Yeah, we are." He reached across the space between their horses, took her hand. "She'd be happy for you. Catherine, you know that, right?" Caleb's throat worked. "I hope so." Rose started writing, a journal. For the baby. Because if something happened, if the worst came to pass, she wanted her child to know, to understand, to have proof that they were wanted. "Dear little one, today your father and I learned you're real. Dr. Thornfield says you're healthy, growing, due in November. The world said I couldn't have you, said my body was broken. But here you are, proof that the world was wrong. I'm your mother, and that's everything." The months passed, slowly at first, then with gathering speed. Caleb changed, incrementally but noticeably. He stopped sleeping in the loft, moved down to the main room, closer, within reach, in case Rose needed something. He started cooking more, making sure Rose ate even when nausea made food seem impossible. "You need to keep your strength up." "I know." "The baby needs nutrients." "I know." "So eat." "You're bossy when you're worried." "I'm always worried. Now eat." Rose ate. Because fighting took energy she didn't have, and because secretly she liked being taken care of. The nightmares didn't stop, but they changed. Instead of Catherine, Caleb dreamed about Rose, about losing her, about blood and screaming and babies who wouldn't cry. The nightmares changed. Instead of Catherine, Caleb dreamed about Rose, about losing her, about blood and babies who wouldn't cry. Rose learned to climb into bed beside him before the screaming started. Her presence alone chased the worst visions away. "I won't. You can't promise that." "No, but I can promise to fight, to do everything right, to give this baby every chance. That's all anyone can promise." Caleb's hands moved to her stomach, now rounded, showing undeniable proof. "I can feel it," he said, wonder in his voice. "The baby. I can feel it moving. That's your child, saying hello." They lay there in the darkness, Caleb's hand on Rose's stomach, feeling their baby move. And slowly, carefully, the fear in Caleb's eyes began to transform into something else. Not quite hope. Not yet. But maybe the possibility of hope. Rose's body continued to change. Her stomach grew rounder, her breasts fuller, her skin glowed with that peculiar radiance that comes with growing life. She felt powerful, beautiful, capable. Everything Dr. Blackwell said she could never be. Caleb watched her with something like awe, like he couldn't quite believe this was real, that after 2 years of death and grief, life was happening. Right here, in their cabin, between two broken people who'd somehow found a way to be whole together. "What do you want to name her?" Rose asked one evening as they sat by the fire. I think it's a girl." "How do you know?" "I don't, but I feel it. The way I felt I was pregnant before any doctor confirmed it." Caleb considered. "What would you name her?" "Hope." The word hung between them, simple, perfect, heavy with meaning. "Hope," Caleb repeated. "After everything we've survived, everything we've lost, we'd name our daughter Hope." "Yes. Catherine would love that." "Would she?" "She'd love that we're not letting the past define the future, that we're choosing to believe in something good." Rose leaned against him. "Then Hope it is. If it's a girl. And if it's a boy, then we'll figure that out when we meet him." They sat in comfortable silence, the fire crackling, the baby moving, the future unfolding before them one day at a time. The second visit to Dr. Thornfield came in June, 4 months along. Rose visibly pregnant now. No hiding it, no denying it. The doctor examined her, listened to the baby's heartbeat with his stethoscope, measured her growing belly, asked questions, took notes. "Everything looks perfect," he said finally. "The baby's growing well, strong heartbeat, good size. You're doing everything right, Mrs. Stone." Rose exhaled, relief washing through her. "And the risks?" Caleb asked. "What are the chances of complications?" Dr. Thornfield looked at him kindly. "Mr. Stone, I can't promise you nothing will go wrong. Childbirth always carries risks. But Mrs. Stone is young, healthy, and showing no signs of problems. The chances of a successful delivery are very much in her favor." But Catherine was young and healthy too. Catherine had a different situation entirely. An early labor, a breech presentation, hemorrhaging that couldn't be controlled. These are not inevitable. They're not even likely. What happened to your wife was a tragedy, but it's not a template for every pregnancy. Caleb nodded, but Rose could see he didn't quite believe it. Couldn't quite let go of the fear. On the ride home, Rose said quietly, "You're allowed to be scared." "I know. And you're allowed to hope. I'm working on that part. Take your time, but know that I'm hoping enough for both of us." Caleb smiled, small but real. "You always were the optimist." "Someone has to be." Month 5 brought the quickening. Caleb would press his hand to Rose's stomach, waiting for the baby's kick. Each flutter transformed him a little more. The man he used to be was surfacing. Month 6 brought preparations. Caleb built a cradle, rough-hewn pine, sanded smooth, lined with soft blankets. He worked on it for weeks, obsessive in his attention to detail, every joint perfect, every surface safe. "It's beautiful," Rose said when he finally showed her. "It needs to be strong, needs to last." "It will. I built one before for Catherine. Never got to use it." Rose touched his arm. "This one will be different. You can't know that." "I choose to believe it. And so should you." Caleb set the cradle beside their bed, ready, waiting. A promise of the future. Month 7 arrived with autumn, the leaves turning gold and red, the air growing crisp, and Rose growing larger, slower, more uncomfortable. "I feel like a whale," she complained one morning. Caleb looked at her with such open adoration that it took her breath away. "You're beautiful." "I'm enormous." "You're carrying our child. You're the most beautiful thing I've ever seen." Rose felt tears prick her eyes. Damn hormones. "You're just saying that." "I'm saying it because it's true." He crossed to her, wrapped his arms around her as much as he could with her belly between them, kissed the top of her head. "2 more months," he said. 2 more months, and we get to meet her. I can't wait. Neither can I. But fate, as it turned out, had different plans. It happened at night. Month 7, week 3. Rose woke to wetness. Not blood, thank God, not blood, but water. Warm, gushing, soaking the bed. Her heart stopped. "Caleb." He was beside her in seconds. "What's wrong?" He saw the wet sheets. Color drained from his face. No, it's too early." "Caleb, you're only 7 months." "Caleb." He stopped, looked at her. Rose took his hand, pressed it to her stomach. The baby was moving, active, strong. "Feel that?" "Yeah. That's a healthy baby who's decided to come early. So we need to stay calm, need to get help, need to—" A contraction hit, sharp, intense. Rose gasped. Caleb caught her. "We need to go, now. Get you to Dr. Thornfield. We won't make it. We have to—" "Caleb, listen, there's no time. This baby is coming. Here, tonight, and I need you to help me." The fear in his eyes was devastating, absolute, the kind of fear that destroys men. "I can't. Rose, I can't. Last time you were alone, helpless. This time you're not. This time you have me, and I'm going to tell you exactly what to do. But I need you to trust me. Can you do that?" Caleb was shaking, whole body trembling, but he nodded. "Okay. First get the medical kit. Then boil water. We need everything as clean as possible." He moved, mechanical, following orders because orders were easier than thinking. Rose breathed through another contraction. Counted. 45 seconds. Getting closer. This was happening fast. Too fast. She grabbed the edge of the bed, focused. She could do this. Women had been doing this forever, without doctors, without hospitals, just doing what needed to be done. Caleb returned. Medical kit, hot water, clean towels. "What else?" "Help me to the rocking chair. I need to be upright. Gravity helps." He supported her, gentle, terrified. Rose settled into Catherine's chair. The irony wasn't lost on her. Another contraction, stronger. She gripped Caleb's hand, squeezed until bones ground together. He didn't flinch. "How long?" he asked. "I don't know. First babies usually take hours, but this one seems impatient." "Like its mother." "Damn right." Rose tried to smile, failed. Pain was consuming, all-encompassing. Nothing existed except the wave, the tightening, the pressure. "Rose, talk to me. Tell me what you need. I need this to be over." "Anything else?" "I need you not to fall apart. Because if you fall apart, I fall apart. And we can't both fall apart." Caleb knelt in front of her, looked her dead in the eyes. "I'm not falling apart. I'm here. I'm staying. Just like I promised. Even if—" "No. Don't say it. Don't even think it. You're going to be fine. The baby's going to be fine. We're all going to be fine." He said it like he believed it. Like faith alone could make it true. Another contraction. Rose screamed. Couldn't help it. Couldn't hold back. The pain was biblical. "I need to push. Already. What do I do? Catch the baby. Rose, catch the baby." She pushed. Every muscle, every fiber, everything she had, focused on one goal. Getting this baby out. Getting this baby safe. "I see the head." Caleb's voice cracked with emotion. "Rose, I see the head. One more push." Rose gathered herself. One last effort, one last push. She bore down, felt something shift, felt release, And then a cry, thin, reedy, but strong. A baby, their baby, crying, which meant breathing, which meant alive. Rose collapsed back, sobbing. "Is it? It's a girl." Caleb's voice was thick with tears. "We have a daughter." He placed the baby on Rose's chest. Tiny, perfect, too small, but alive, so alive. "Hi, baby," Rose whispered. "Hi, sweet girl. We've been waiting for you." The baby stopped crying, blinked up at Rose with unfocused eyes, and Rose fell in love, completely, utterly, irrevocably. "Hope," she said. "Her name is Hope." Caleb touched the baby's head, gentle, reverent. "Hope. Yeah, that's perfect." He looked at Rose, tears streaming down his face. "You did it. We did it. You almost died. But I didn't. You could have, but I didn't. We're both here, both alive, both okay." Caleb dropped his head to Rose's shoulder, wept. Great heaving sobs, 2 years of grief, 2 years of fear, pouring out all at once. Rose held him with one arm, held Hope with the other, and let him break, because he'd earned it, because he'd stayed, because he'd been brave when it mattered most. Outside snow began to fall, soft, gentle, covering the mountain in white, and inside a family was born, broken, imperfect, scared, but together, and that was everything. Hope was small, 4 pounds, maybe 5. Dr. Thornfield arrived 2 days after the birth. Caleb had ridden through the night to fetch him and pronounced her small but healthy. "Born at 7 months, the doctor said, examining the tiny girl with gentle hands. "But strong lungs, good color. She's a fighter." He turned to Rose. "And you, how are you healing?" "Fine. No excessive bleeding. Some, but nothing alarming. Pain, manageable." Dr. Thornfield smiled. "You're tougher than most women I've treated. Most men too, for that matter." "I've had practice being tough." The doctor's expression grew serious. "What you did delivering alone, essentially, that took remarkable courage. And luck. You understand that, don't you? That this could have gone very differently." "I understand." "Good. Because I need you to understand something else. This baby came early. That's not your fault. Nothing you did caused this. Early labor happens. Sometimes there's a reason, sometimes there isn't. But I've examined Hope thoroughly. She's healthy, and barring complications, she'll grow up just fine." A fear she hadn't named dissolved. She could breathe again, that somehow she'd failed, that her body had let Hope down. "Thank you," she whispered. Dr. Thornfield stood, packed his bag. "I'll be back in 2 weeks to check on you both. In the meantime, keep the baby warm. Feed her often. Sleep when you can. And Mr. Stone." Caleb looked up from where he sat, watching Hope sleep in her cradle. "Take care of them both, but take care of yourself, too. You've been through a trauma. Don't pretend you haven't." After the doctor left, Caleb said quietly, "I thought I'd lost you." "But you didn't. When I saw the blood, when I heard you scream, I was back there, with Catherine, watching her die, unable to stop it. But this time was different. This time you lived. This time we both lived." Caleb crossed to the cradle, looked down at Hope. So small, so perfect, so impossibly alive. "She's a miracle," he said. "She's proof that we survived, that we built something real." The first weeks were hard. Hope needed to eat every 2 hours, day and night. Rose was exhausted. Caleb took over everything else, cooking, cleaning firewood, caring for the animals. He moved through the tasks with mechanical efficiency, but Rose could see the joy underneath, the wonder. He'd become a father, the thing he thought he'd lost forever, and it was transforming him. One night Rose woke to find Caleb's side of the bed empty. She rose carefully, still healing, and found him standing by the cradle, just watching Hope sleep. "Can't sleep?" Rose asked softly. "Don't want to. Afraid if I close my eyes I'll wake up and this will all be a dream." "It's real." "I know, but I keep waiting for it to be taken away." Rose moved beside him, slipped her hand into his. "Nothing's being taken. We're here, all 3 of us, together." Caleb looked at her, and for the first time since Rose had known him, his eyes weren't empty. They were full, of love, of fear, of hope, of everything. "I don't know how to do this," he said. "Do what?" "Be happy. It's been so long. I don't remember how. You start small. You hold your daughter. You kiss your wife. You let yourself feel joy, even if it scares you." "Everything scares me." "Welcome to parenthood." Caleb almost laughed. "Is it always this terrifying?" "I have no idea. I'm making it up as I go." "You're doing a good job." "So are you." They stood there, watching Hope sleep, watching her tiny chest rise and fall, proof of life, proof of possibility, proof that the future could be different than the past. When Hope was 3 weeks old, Rose made a decision. "I need to go to Evergreen Hollow," she said. Caleb looked up from where he was holding Hope, staring at her like she might disappear. "What?" "I need to go back. Show them. Show everyone." "Why?" "Because Dr. Blackwell destroyed my life. Because my father sold me. Because an entire town decided I was worthless. And I need them to see, to know, that they were wrong." Caleb was quiet. "Then, when? Soon, before winter really sets in. While Hope is still small enough to travel safely. It's a hard journey. I know. You just gave birth. 3 weeks ago. I'm recovering fast. Rose, I need this. Need closure. Need to face them. Otherwise I'll spend the rest of my life wondering, what if I'd gone back? What if I'd shown them?" Caleb looked at Hope, then at Rose. "Okay, we'll go. But Dr. Thornfield comes with us. Document everything, medical proof, so they can't claim we're lying." Rose's breath caught. "You'd do that? Come with me? Did you think I'd let you go alone?" "I don't know. It's not your fight. You're my wife. Hope is my daughter. That makes it my fight." Wife. The word hung there. They'd never actually married, never made it official. But in every way that mattered, they were. "Thank you," Rose whispered. Caleb smiled. "What are families for?" They spent a week preparing, getting Rose's strength back, making sure Hope could handle travel. Caleb rode to Silver Creek, returned with Dr. Thornfield. The old doctor examined Hope. Thorough, careful. "Undersized for a full-term baby," he said, "but perfect for 7 months. No complications. Strong lungs, good color. This little one is a fighter." He turned to Rose. "And you, how are you healing?" "Well." "Truthfully?" "Truthfully. Some lingering soreness, but nothing concerning." "You're sure you wanted to do this travel while you're still recovering?" "I'm sure." Dr. Thornfield nodded. "Then I'm coming, to document everything. And when we're done, I'm filing a formal complaint with the Territorial Medical Board. Blackwell's reign ends now." They left on a clear November morning. Rose, Caleb, Hope, Dr. Thornfield. 4 people on a journey. 3 hours through cold but not yet brutal winter. Hope bundled in furs, silent, wide-eyed, taking in her first glimpse of the world beyond the mountain. Rose held her close, whispered promises about the future, about change, about a world where daughters wouldn't be judged by their wombs, where women controlled their own bodies, their own destinies. Hope yawned. Tiny mouth, pink tongue, unbearably precious. And Rose thought, this is why. This is what I'm fighting for. Not revenge, not vindication, but the chance for Hope to grow up free, unjudged, unbroken by other people's lies. The mountain fell away behind them, and ahead, Evergreen Hollow waited, unaware, unprepared, about to learn that Rose Hartwell was no longer the girl they'd sold. She was Rose Stone, mother, wife, warrior, and she was coming home to collect what was owed. Evergreen Hollow looked exactly the same, which was infuriating, because everything else had changed. Rose had changed. She'd been sold, married, given birth, became a mother, a wife, a person with value, but the town just existed, unchanged, unaware, going about its business like it hadn't destroyed a woman's life 3 years ago. They rode in just after noon, Main Street busy, people everywhere, shopping, talking, living, normal, mundane, until they saw Rose. Then silence, spreading like ripples. One person noticed, stopped, stared, then another, and another, until the entire street had gone quiet, watching this ghost returning from the dead. Rose sat straighter on her horse. Caleb rode beside her, solid, protective, Dr. Thornfield behind, dignified, professional, and in Rose's arms bundled against the cold hope. 3 weeks old, proof incarnate. They stopped in the town square, right in front of the general store, where the most people could see, where the most people could hear. Caleb dismounted first, helped Rose down. Careful, gentle. His hand lingered on her waist. Possessive. A claim, "This woman is mine. Touch her and die." Rose adjusted Hope in her arms. The baby stirred, whimpered, but didn't wake. The crowd grew, drawn by curiosity, by scandal, by the chance to witness something memorable. Rose recognized faces. Mrs. Henderson, who'd crossed the street to avoid her. Thomas Parker, who'd asked to court her once before. And there, pushing through the crowd, face pale, eyes wide, Silas Hartwell, her father. Rose met his gaze, held it. Let him see what he'd sold. Let him see what she'd become. Silas opened his mouth, closed it. No words. Good. Because Rose didn't want his words. She wanted his silence, his discomfort, his shame. "Who's going to tell Dr. Blackwell I'm here?" Rose's voice carried, clear, strong. "Or should I knock on his door myself?" Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Someone ran, probably to fetch the doctor. Good. Rose wanted him here, wanted him to see, wanted him to know that his lie had failed, that she'd survived anyway, thrived even. Minutes passed. The crowd grew larger. Whispers, speculation. Rose caught fragments. "Is that... can't be... thought she was. But she's holding a..." Let them whisper. Let them wonder. Let them squirm. Dr. Cornelius Blackwell emerged from his office. 65, portly, self-important. He walked like a man who'd never faced consequences, never been challenged, never been wrong. That was about to change. "Rosalind Hartwell." Blackwell's voice was condescending, dismissive. "I heard you'd left town. Didn't expect to see you back." "It's Rose Stone now." Rose shifted Hope slightly, made sure everyone could see. "And I came back to show you something." Blackwell's eyes flicked to the bundle, narrowed. "What is that?" "My daughter." Silence. Absolute. Complete. The kind of silence that precedes earthquakes. "That's impossible," Blackwell said. "You're barren. I diagnosed you myself." "You diagnosed me wrong." "I don't make mistakes." "You made this one." Rose took a step forward. The crowd parted. 3 years ago you examined me, told my father I was infertile. Based on what, a 5-minute examination, your vast medical expertise, or the money Constance Ashford paid you to ruin my life? Gasps. Blackwell's face went red. "How dare you? How dare I? How dare you? You destroyed my reputation, my future. My family sold me because of your lie, and now I'm standing here with proof. Living, breathing, 3-week-old proof that you were wrong." Dr. Thornfield stepped forward, opened his medical bag, pulled out papers. "I'm Dr. Ezekiel Thornfield, Silver Creek. I've been practicing medicine for 40 years, and I've examined Mrs. Stone multiple times, during her pregnancy, after her delivery. There is and never was anything wrong with her reproductive system. She conceived naturally, carried to 7 months, delivered a healthy infant without complications." He held up the documents. "This is medical documentation, signed, dated, witnessed. Proof that your diagnosis was at best incompetent. At worst, fraudulent." Blackwell sputtered. "You can't prove..." "I can prove everything, including the fact that you've made similar diagnoses to dozens of women over 20 years, always young women from families without means, always conveniently after someone wealthy, someone influential questions their suitability." The crowd was riveted, frozen, watching the town's respected doctor crumble. "This is slander. This is truth," Dr. Thornfield snapped, "and I'm filing a formal complaint with the Territorial Medical Board. You'll be investigated, probably disbarred, and every woman you've harmed will have proof that you lied." Blackwell looked around, searching for support, found none, Because the crowd had turned, the moment they saw hope, the moment they realized Rose wasn't broken, had never been broken, just lied about. "Constance," Blackwell called, desperate. "Constance Ashford, tell them why we did it." And there, pushing through the crowd, Constance. 50, elegant, imperious, the woman who'd orchestrated everything. She looked at Rose, at hope. And for one moment, just one, Rose saw fear. "You paid him," Rose said. Quiet. Deadly. "Didn't you pay Dr. Blackwell to diagnose me as barren? Because I wasn't good enough for your family, because my father was a drunk, my mother was dead, because the Ashfords don't marry down." Constance lifted her chin. "I did what was necessary. Necessary to protect my son from making a mistake. A mistake. I was a person, a woman, with a future, and you destroyed it. For what? Pride status. The chance to pick a daughter-in-law with better bloodlines. You're being dramatic. I'm being honest, which is more than you've ever been." Constance's facade cracked. "You think you're special. You think this baby changes anything. You're still nobody, still trash, still exactly what we said you were." The words landed, sharp, vicious, meant to wound, and they did. For a moment. Then Rose looked at Caleb, at his steady gray eyes, at the pride in his face, looked at hope, at her perfect tiny features, at the life they'd created, and smiled. "You're right, I'm nobody, just a woman who was sold for $50, who married a mountain man, who gave birth in a cabin with no doctor, no help, nothing but sheer stubborn will. I'm nobody, but I'm alive, happy, free. While you're trapped in your big house with your important name and absolutely nothing that matters. So yes, I'm nobody, and I wouldn't trade places with you for anything." Constance froze, her composure cracked, because Rose had won, not with anger, not with revenge, but with truth. With the simple, undeniable truth that happiness mattered more than status, that love mattered more than name, that being nobody with everything beat being somebody with nothing, every single time. "Mother, that's enough." A man's voice, cutting through the tension. Rose turned and saw Richard Ashford, her former fiancé, 30 now, handsome still, but worn, like life had ground him down. He crossed the square, stopped in front of Constance. "What are you doing?" Constance hissed. "What I should have done 3 years ago." He turned to face the crowd. "Everything Rose said is true. My mother paid Dr. Blackwell $500 to diagnose Rose as barren. I know because I heard them planning it. And I said nothing, did nothing, because I was a coward, because I let my mother control my life, my choices, everything." Constance grabbed his arm. "Richard, stop." He shook her off. "I'm done, Mother. Done lying, done pretending, done letting you ruin people because they don't meet your standards." He looked at Rose. "I'm sorry. I know that's not enough. No, it doesn't fix anything. But I'm sorry. For all of it. For being too weak to stand up. For letting them hurt you. For everything." Rose studied him. This man who'd proposed then abandoned her. Who'd let his mother destroy her life. Who'd chosen comfort over courage. "I don't forgive you," she said quietly. Richard flinched, but nodded. "I don't expect you to. Just needed you to know that I knew. That I was complicit. That I'm sorry." "Why now?" Rose asked. "Why speak up now after 3 years?" "Because," Richard gestured to Hope, "because that baby shouldn't grow up in a world where powerful people can lie without consequences, where money matters more than truth, where cowardice is rewarded and courage is punished. I can't undo what happened to you, but I can try to make sure it doesn't happen to anyone else." He turned to Dr. Thornfield. "I'll testify, against my mother, against Blackwell, against anyone who needs to answer for this. I'll tell everything I know." Dr. Thornfield nodded. "That would be helpful." Constance looked at her son, betrayal written across her face. "You're choosing her over your own mother. I'm choosing right over wrong. Something you taught me to value, then spent your life ignoring." Constance turned, pushed through the crowd, gone, leaving her son behind, leaving her reputation in ruins, leaving nothing but wreckage. Silas pushed through the crowd, stopped a few feet from Rose, too far to touch, close enough to see every detail, the baby, the exhaustion, the hard-won peace. Rose. One word. Broken. Father. They looked at each other. 3 years of silence. 3 years of pain. Everything unsaid hanging between them. I didn't know, Silas finally said. About Constance paying Blackwell. Didn't know it was deliberate. Would it have mattered? What? If you'd known, would it have changed anything, or would you still have sold me? Silas flinched. I was desperate. We were all desperate. But I was your daughter, and you chose money over your daughter. I thought I was giving you a chance. You thought you were solving a problem. I was a burden, an embarrassment, a reminder that your family wasn't good enough for the Ashfords. So you sold me to the first person who'd take me. That's exactly it. Rose shifted hope. The baby was waking, starting to fuss. I have a granddaughter, Silas whispered. You have nothing. The words landed like a blow. Silas staggered back. Rose, you sold your right to family the moment you took that money, the moment you tied my wrists, the moment you walked away without looking back. You chose. And now I'm choosing. To protect my daughter from ever feeling unwanted, unloved, disposable, the way you made me feel. Tears streamed down Silas's face. I'm sorry. I know. Can you forgive me? Rose considered, really considered, because forgiveness was complicated, not black and white, not simple. Maybe someday, she said finally, but not today. Today I'm still too angry, still too hurt, still too aware that you valued money over me. What can I do? Nothing. There's nothing you can do except live with it. Live with the knowledge that you had a daughter who needed you, and you failed her. Silas sobbed, actually sobbed in the middle of the town square, in front of everyone, and Rose felt nothing. No satisfaction, no vindication, just emptiness where love used to be. Hope wailed, hungry, tired, done with this place. Rose looked at Caleb. Can we go? Yeah, we can go. He helped her mount, handed up Hope, climbed on his own horse. Dr. Thornfield followed. They turned ready to leave. Rose, Matthias, her brother, pushing through the crowd, younger than she remembered, 28 but looking 40, worn down by guilt. Don't go, not yet, please. Rose looked at him. This person who'd shared her childhood, who'd taught her to fish, who'd sat silent while she was sold. What do you want, Matthias? To say I'm sorry, to say I was wrong, to say I miss my sister. Your sister died 3 years ago. No, she didn't. She's right here. Stronger, braver, more incredible than I ever imagined. And I want to know her. Rose's throat tightened. Why? Because I've spent 3 years hating myself for not stopping it, for not standing up, for choosing comfort over courage. And I can't keep living like this knowing I failed you unless you give me a chance to be better, to be the brother you deserved. Hope fussed. Rose rocked her, gentle, automatic, and thought about forgiveness, about second chances, about the fact that holding on to anger hurt her more than them. One letter, she said, at Christmas, telling me how you are, what you're doing, if you're trying to be better. That's all I can promise for now. Matthias nodded. Thank you. That's more than I deserve. Yeah, it is. Rose looked at the town square, at all the faces watching, at the place that had destroyed her that she'd survived anyway. Listen to me, all of you. I came back to prove something, to show you that your judgment was wrong, that your cruelty was undeserved, that I was never the problem. But you know what? I don't care anymore. Don't care what you think, what you believe, whether you apologize or double down. Because I have everything that matters. A husband who loves me, a daughter who's perfect, a life that's mine, and nothing you can say or do will ever take that away. She turned her horse. Let's go home. They rode out of Evergreen Hollow for the last time, and didn't look back. They stopped for the night halfway home. Too far to make it in one day, especially with Hope. Caleb built a fire. Dr. Thornfield tended the horses. Rose fed Hope, watched the baby's tiny mouth work her perfect miniature hands, the complete trust in her unfocused eyes. You did well today, Caleb said, settling beside her. Close. Protective. Did I? You stood up, spoke truth, didn't let them diminish you. Yeah, you did well. It didn't feel like enough. What would have been enough? Rose considered. I don't know. An apology, maybe. Real remorse. Some kind of acknowledgement that what they did mattered. You got some of that. From Richard. From Matthias. Not from the people who actually orchestrated it. Constance will never apologize. I know. And Blackwell will spend the rest of his life denying everything. I know that too. So what now? Rose looked at Hope, at Caleb, at the fire warming them against the cold. Now we go home, raise our daughter, build a life, and let them deal with their own consequences. That's it. That's everything. Caleb kissed her forehead. I'm proud of you. Dr. Thornfield approached. Mind if I join you? Please. He settled on a log, older, tired, but satisfied. I sent a telegram before we left, to the Territorial Medical Board, with everything. Richard's testimony, my examination notes, the pattern of Blackwell's diagnoses. They're investigating, officially. Will they really revoke his license? They will. This case combined with others is damning. Blackwell's finished. Rose felt something not quite victory but close. What about Constance? Harder to prosecute. What she did bribing a doctor, ruining your reputation, it's morally reprehensible but not strictly illegal. At least not in ways we can prove. So she gets away with it. She loses her son, her reputation, her place in society. That's not nothing. It's not justice either. No, but it's something. They sat in silence, the fire crackling, Hope sleeping, the mountain looming in the distance. Home. Spring came slowly to the mountain. Snow melted, flowers bloomed, the world thawed, and with it contact. Caleb rode down to the valley for supplies and mail, returned with letters, 3 of them. Rose recognized the handwriting. Matthias, Richard, Dr. Thornfield. She opened Matthias's first. He'd left their father's house, got a job at the mill, hard work, honest work, was trying to be better, braver. It was hard, but he was trying. Richard's letter told of testimony of Blackwell's license being revoked, of his mother refusing to speak to him, of moving to Denver, starting over, living simply, finally living for himself, not for appearances. Dr. Thornfield's letter brought the news Rose had hoped for. Blackwell's license was formally revoked. Dozens of women came forward emboldened by Rose's courage, getting second opinions, proper diagnoses, real care, some discovering like Rose that they were never barren, just lied to. A movement, a change, women demanding better, refusing to accept dismissal, insisting on truth. And it started with Rose. Rose set down the letter, looked at Hope, 6 months old now, sitting up, laughing, bright-eyed. Everything everyone said was impossible. What did they say? Caleb asked. Rose handed him the letters. He read slowly, carefully, set them down. You did it. Did what? Changed things, made a difference, saved people. I just refused to lie down. That's all it takes sometimes. One person refusing to accept wrong as inevitable. Rose looked at the letters, at proof that her pain hadn't been meaningless, that her fight had mattered, that standing up, speaking out, refusing to be silent, changed lives. Hope will know, she said quietly. When she's older, she'll know that her existence changed the world, even if just a little. More than a little. Caleb knelt beside her, took her hand. I'm proud of you, proud to be your husband, proud to raise our daughter with you, proud of everything. Rose kissed him. We did this together. Hope grew, fast at first, then steady. By her first birthday, she was walking, babbling, getting into everything. She had Caleb's gray eyes and Rose's stubborn chin and a spirit that belonged entirely to herself. By 2, she was talking in full sentences. By 3, she was following Caleb around the mountain, learning to read tracks, identify plants, survive. Rose watched her daughter become a force of nature and marveled. This girl who defied every prediction, who proved doctors wrong just by breathing, who proved every day that the world's judgments were worthless. The nightmares never fully left Caleb, but they changed, became less frequent, less violent, and when they came, Rose was there, steady, constant, a reminder that this time everyone survived. They built a life, simple, hard, beautiful. Caleb expanded the cabin, adding a room for Hope. Rose started a garden, coaxing vegetables from the rocky soil. They traded with neighbors, hosted occasional visitors, but mostly kept to themselves. The mountain was theirs, their sanctuary, their home. Letters came regularly. Matthias had remarried. Richard found purpose in Denver. Dr. Thornfield wrote about the women Rose's story had saved. When Hope was 5, Rose started teaching her to read, using Catherine's book of poetry. The irony wasn't lost on either of them, Caleb's first wife teaching his daughter through words on a page. But it felt right. Like Catherine was still part of their family, still blessing them from wherever she'd gone. Hope loved the poetry, would make Rose read the same verses over and over until she had them memorized. Then she'd recite them to the chickens, the horse, anyone who would listen. "She's like Catherine," Caleb said one evening, watching Hope perform for an audience of one indifferent cat. "Is that hard?" Rose asked gently. "No, it's good. Catherine would love her, would love that her books are being used, that her chair is being sat in, that her memory is alive in our daughter. You don't talk about her much anymore. Don't need to. She's here, in the cabin, in Hope, in the fact that I survived long enough to have this. She'd want that. Want me to move forward." Rose took his hand. "I think she'd be proud of you. I think she'd be proud of both of us." By the time Hope was 10, Rose had taught her everything she knew about running a household, treating injuries, delivering babies. Because women needed these skills, needed to be self-sufficient. Caleb taught her everything else: hunting, tracking, surviving, fighting if necessary. Because the world was dangerous and Hope needed to be dangerous too. Together they raised a daughter who was soft and hard simultaneously, who could recite poetry and skin a rabbit, who could cry over a wounded bird and shoot straight when needed. A daughter who embodied everything they'd survived to become. When Hope was 12, she asked about Evergreen Hollow. "Tell me about the town," she said one evening. "The place where you were born." Rose looked at Caleb. He nodded. "Your story to tell." So Rose told it. All of it. Dr. Blackwell's lie. The sale. The $50. The journey to the mountain. The storm. The pregnancy. The confrontation. Everything. Hope listened with wide eyes. When Rose finished, she was quiet for a long time. Then, "They were wrong about you." "Yes. And you proved it." "Yes. By having me. By refusing to accept their definition of who I could be." Hope considered this. "When I grow up, I want to be a doctor." Rose's breath caught. "What?" "A doctor, like Dr. Thornfield, so I can help women who've been lied to, so I can tell them the truth." Caleb smiled. "That's a good goal. Will you help me?" "We'll do everything we can." And they did. Over the next years they saved every penny, wrote to Dr. Thornfield for guidance, studied medical texts, prepared Hope for a future they'd once thought impossible. When Hope was 16, Dr. Thornfield visited. "I'm retiring," he said, "moving back east to be with family. But I wanted to see Hope before I go. Wanted to meet the girl who inspired so much change." He examined Hope like she was a medical marvel, asked her questions, tested her knowledge. Finally he turned to Rose and Caleb. "She's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. If you can get her to Denver, I have contacts at the medical college. They're starting to accept women students. Not many, but some. Hope could be one of them." Rose felt tears prick her eyes. "You'd help her? After what you did, after how you changed things, helping Hope is the least I can do." Hope was 20 when she finally left for medical school. 20 years of life on the mountain. 20 years of preparation. Rose stood in the doorway watching her daughter pack. Tall now, strong, beautiful. Her father's gray eyes, her mother's stubborn chin, a force of nature. "You ready?" Caleb asked, coming up behind Rose. "No," Rose admitted. "I'm not ready for her to leave, to grow up, to be gone." "She's not gone. She's becoming." "I know, but she's my baby." Caleb wrapped his arms around her. "She'll always be our baby, but she's also her own person." with her own path. Hope appeared, bags packed, face glowing. "I'm ready." Rose's eyes filled. "Already?" "Mom, I've been ready for months." "I know. I just hoped for a few more minutes." Hope crossed to them, hugged them both, fierce, tight. "I love you, both of you. Everything I am, everything I'm going to be is because of you." "You did this yourself," Rose said. "No. You taught me that my worth isn't tied to what other people think, that I can be anything, do anything, that courage matters more than comfort. Those lessons, they're why I'm going, why I'm fighting, why I believe I can make a difference." Rose cupped her daughter's face. "You already have. Just by existing. Just by being you." They walked Hope to the wagon Caleb had hired to take her down the mountain. The driver waited, patient, respectful. Hope climbed up, turned back. "Tell me the story again, before I go." "What story?" "About how you met, how I came to be, how you proved everyone wrong." Rose smiled. "You know that story. I want to hear it one more time." So Rose told it. About being sold. About 3 days that changed everything. About a baby everyone said was impossible. About standing in a town square holding proof that love matters more than lies. When she finished, Hope was crying. "That's my favorite story." "Mine too. I'm going to tell it to every woman I meet who's been told she can't, she's broken, she's less than. I'm going to tell them about you, about me, about how we proved them all wrong." The wagon pulled away. Rose and Caleb stood watching until Hope disappeared around the bend, until they were alone again, just the two of them, like it started. "She's going to change the world," Caleb said. "She already has." They walked back to the cabin, hand in hand. 20 years married, 20 years building a life, 20 years proving that the most radical act is refusing to accept other people's definitions, is choosing yourself, is surviving and thriving and becoming everything they said you couldn't be. The letters from Hope came weekly at first, then monthly as studies intensified. She wrote about anatomy classes, about male students who sneered at women in medicine, about professors who were surprisingly supportive. She wrote about long hours, difficult material, the joy of finally understanding how bodies worked. And she wrote about the women she met. Women who'd been told they were barren, hysterical, broken. Women who needed doctors who would listen, who would care, who would tell the truth. "Dear Mama and Papa, I met a woman today, 23, told she could never have children. I examined her, found nothing wrong, gave her a second opinion. She cried, said I was the first doctor who'd treated her like a person rather than a problem. This is why I'm here. This is what you gave me. All my love." Hope Rose read the letters aloud to Caleb each time they arrived, watched his face glow with pride, with wonder that their daughter, their impossible daughter, was out in the world, making the difference they'd started. 2 years into Hope's studies, another letter arrived. Different handwriting. Dr. Margaret Winters, professor of obstetrics at the medical college. "Dear Mr. and Mrs. Stone, I wanted to inform you that your daughter Hope is the finest student I've taught in 30 years. Her knowledge, her compassion, her dedication, all exceptional. But more than that, her story has inspired our entire program. When male students question whether women belong in medicine, I tell them about Hope, about her mother who was declared barren-souled and proved every expert wrong, about how that experience shaped a young woman who will change the face of women's medicine. You should be extraordinarily proud. Respectfully, Dr. Margaret Winters." Rose folded the letter carefully, placed it in the box where she kept all of Hope's correspondence. "She's doing it," she whispered. "She's actually doing it." "Did you ever doubt she would?" "Yes, every day. The world is designed to stop girls like Hope. But Hope isn't just any girl. She's ours, and we taught her to be unstoppable." The cabin felt larger without Hope, quieter. Rose filled the space with activity, expanding her garden, helping neighbors deliver babies, teaching younger women mountain survival. Caleb filled it with work, more wood, bigger projects, anything to keep busy. But the evenings were hard, when they'd sit by the fire and the silence would press in, reminding them their daughter was gone, grown, living her own life. "Do you regret it?" Caleb asked one night. Any of it. Rose considered. Which part? All of it. Being sold, coming here, the struggle, the pain. No, because everything we survived made hope possible, and hope is changing the world. How could I regret that? You gave up a lot. I gave up a life I never wanted for a life I built myself. That's not sacrifice. That's choice. Caleb pulled her close. I love you. I love you too. Even though I bought you, because you saw me, not property, not broken, just me. They sat in comfortable silence, the fire crackling, the mountains settling around them, growing old together, growing peaceful. Hope came home 5 years later, not as a student, as Dr. Hope Stone, 25 years old, newly graduated, ready to practice. She arrived on a spring morning, riding up the mountain trail like she'd never left. Rose saw her from the garden and dropped her trowel, ran. Mother and daughter collided in the middle of the clearing, holding each other, crying, laughing. You're home. I'm home. For how long? For good. I'm opening a practice in Silver Creek for women who need care from someone who understands. Rose pulled back, looked at her daughter. You're sure? I'm sure. Denver was good, taught me everything I needed, but this is where I'm needed. This is where I can make the biggest difference. Caleb emerged from the cabin, stopped, stared, then crossed to his daughter and swept her into his arms. Welcome home, Doc. Hope laughed. I like the sound of that. They spent the day catching up. Hope told stories about medical school, about the women she'd helped, about professors who'd become mentors, about the world beyond the mountain. But as evening fell, she grew quiet. I need to tell you something, Hope said. Rose and Caleb exchanged glances. What? I visited Evergreen Hollow. Silence. Complete. Shocked. Why? Rose finally asked. Because I needed to see it. The place where your story started. Where my story started, really. And it's changed. Dr. Blackwell is gone, died 2 years ago. Constance Ashford moved away after Richard testified against her. Your father still lives there. He's old now, sick. Matthias takes care of him. How are they? Matthias is good, married, 2 children, doing well. Your father... Hope hesitated. He asked about you, asked if you were happy. What did you tell him? The truth. That you built a life beyond anything Evergreen Hollow could offer. That you raised a daughter who became a doctor. That you proved every single person who doubted you wrong. How did he react? He cried, said he'd give anything to see you again, to meet me, to apologize. Rose was quiet for a long time. Caleb took her hand. Do you want to see him? He asked gently. I don't know. Part of me does. Part of me thinks it's too late. It's never too late for forgiveness, Hope said, if you want to give it. Is that your medical opinion? That's my daughter's opinion, but only you can decide. Rose thought about Silas, about the man who'd sold her, about 25 years of anger, 25 years of hurt, and realized she was tired of carrying that weight. Maybe, she said, maybe I'll write him, see where it leads. Hope smiled. That's all anyone can ask. Dr. Hope Stone's practice opened in Silver Creek 6 months later, a small office, clean, professional, with a sign that read, Women's Medical Care, All Welcome. Rose and Caleb attended the opening, watched their daughter greet patients with the same gentle competence Dr. Thornfield had shown Rose all those years ago. The resemblance was striking, intentional. Dr. Thornfield taught me everything, Hope said. How to listen, how to see the person, not just the problem, how to tell the truth with kindness. Her first patient was a young woman, 22, recently married, told by another doctor she could never have children. Rose watched through the window as Hope conducted a thorough examination, took time, asked questions, listened. Finally, Hope sat across from the woman and spoke words Rose couldn't hear, but she saw the woman's face transform, shock, disbelief, hope, tears. When the woman left, she was smiling. Hope came out, looked at Rose. She's perfectly healthy. No reason she can't conceive. The other doctor didn't even examine her properly, just looked at her medical history and made assumptions, like Blackwell did to me. exactly like Blackwell did to you, but it stops here, with me, with doctors who actually care. Over the following months, Hope's practice grew. Women came from across the territory, some for routine care, some for second opinions, some for the first opinion they'd actually trusted. And with each woman helped, Hope told them Rose's story. Not to brag, but to give hope, to show that doctors could be wrong, that women's bodies weren't mysteries to be feared, but systems to be understood. That knowledge was power. That truth mattered. 1 year after opening her practice, Hope came to the cabin for Sunday dinner. Her routine now, every Sunday, no matter how busy. "I have something to tell you," she said over coffee. "What?" "I'm getting married." Rose nearly dropped her cup. "What?" Hope laughed. "His name is James. He's a teacher, from Silver Creek. We met 6 months ago. He's kind, smart, respects my work, doesn't expect me to give up medicine." "Do we get to meet him?" "He's outside, too nervous to come in." Caleb stood. "I'll get him." He returned with a young man, 27, gentle eyes, nervous smile. "Mr. and Mrs. Stone, I'm James Harper. I care very much for your daughter, and I'd like to ask your permission to marry her." Caleb looked at Rose. Rose looked at Hope. Hope shrugged. "I already said yes, but he insisted on asking you properly." "Old-fashioned," James said. "I know, but my parents raised me to respect tradition." "Do you respect Hope?" Rose asked. "More than anyone I've ever met. Do you support her work?" "Completely. I think what she's doing is remarkable." "Will you expect her to stop practicing when you have children?" "No, ma'am. Hope's calling is medicine. I'd never ask her to give that up." Rose stood, crossed to James, looked him in the eye. "Then yes, you have our blessing." James exhaled. "Thank you." The wedding was small, just family and close friends, held on the mountain in early summer. Hope wore a simple dress, carried wildflowers. Rose watched her daughter marry and felt time collapse. She saw herself at 24, broken-souled, terrified. She saw everything she'd survived, everything she'd built, and she saw Hope, confident, educated love, choosing her own path. This was victory, not the confrontation in Evergreen Hollow, not Blackwell's disgrace. This, raising a daughter who had choices, who had power, who had freedom. That was everything they'd fought for. After the ceremony, Hope found Rose. "Thank you," she said simply. "For what?" "For refusing to break. For proving them wrong. For giving me a life where I get to choose." Rose pulled her daughter close. "You don't thank me for that. That's just what mothers do. We fight so our daughters don't have to. But you fought harder than most, because I had to, and because you were worth it." They stood there, mother and daughter, 2 generations of women who refused to accept the world's limitations. And behind them Caleb watched with tears in his eyes. This family he'd bought for $50. This family that had saved him. This family that had become everything. That night, after the guests had gone and Hope and James had left for their honeymoon, Rose sat down with pen and paper. "Dear Father, Hope told me you asked about me, that you wanted to see me, to apologize. For 25 years I've carried anger, hurt, the memory of being sold, of being worth $50 to you. But I'm tired of carrying it. And watching Hope get married today, I realized something. You gave me the worst thing that ever happened to me, but that worst thing led to the best thing. Caleb, Hope, this life. I don't forgive you. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But I'm willing to talk. If you want to meet your granddaughter, if you want to see what became of the daughter you sold, come to Silver Creek, to Hope's practice. She'll bring you to the mountain. But know this, I'm not coming to absolve you. I'm coming because I've learned that holding on to hate hurts me more than it hurts you. Rose Stone. She mailed the letter the next morning. Didn't know if Silas would come, didn't know if she wanted him to, but she'd offered, and that was enough. 3 weeks later, Hope brought Silas to the mountain. He was old, 73 now, bent, gray, using a cane. Rose barely recognized him. He barely recognized her. They stared at each other. 25 years of absence between them. Finally, Silas spoke. "You look happy." "I am. The cabin is beautiful. Caleb built most of it. And Hope, she's remarkable." "She is." Awkward silence. Then Silas said, "I'm sorry. I know that's not enough. No, it doesn't change anything. But I'm sorry. For selling you. For choosing money over my own daughter. For being weak when you needed me to be strong." Rose nodded. "I know. Can you forgive me? I'm working on it. That's more than I deserve." "Yes, it is." They talked for hours. About the years between. About Matthias and his family. About the town. About Dr. Blackwell's death. About everything except the sale. Because some wounds, even when they heal, leave scars too deep to discuss. When Silas left, Rose felt lighter. Not healed, but lighter. "You okay?" Caleb asked. "Yeah, I think I am." "Any regrets?" "About seeing him know. He needed to know I survived, thrived, that his worst act didn't destroy me. And you needed to know that I could face him without falling apart, that I was stronger than the girl he sold." Caleb pulled her close. "You've always been strong." "No, I became strong. There's a difference." Years passed. Rose and Caleb grew old together on the mountain. Hope's practice thrived. She and James had 3 children, 2 daughters and a son, all taught from birth that their worth was inherent, not bestowed, that their bodies were their own, that the world's limitations didn't apply to them. Silas died when Rose was 52. She attended his funeral, not for him, but for Matthias, for closure, for the final severing of old wounds. Matthias thanked her. "He died knowing you were happy. That meant everything to him." "I'm glad he had that peace." "Are you at peace?" Rose considered. "Yes. Finally. Yes." Dr. Blackwell's name became synonymous with medical fraud. Medical schools taught his case as an example of what not to do, of how personal prejudice could destroy lives. And they taught Rose's story alongside it. The woman who proved him wrong, who refused to accept his diagnosis, who changed medicine by simply refusing to break. Hope became one of the most respected physicians in the territory. Women traveled days to see her, trusted her, believed her when she said, "You're not broken." And every time Hope would tell them about her mother, about being impossible, about proving the world wrong. When Rose was 60, a young journalist came to interview her. "You're famous," the woman said. "Did you know that medical schools teach your story? Women's rights advocates cite you. You're a symbol." Rose laughed. "I'm just a woman who refused to believe a lie." "But that refusal changed everything." "Did it? Look around. Women are going to medical school now, demanding second opinions, questioning male doctors. That started with you." Rose thought about this, about the girl she'd been at 24, terrified, sold, certain she was worthless, about the woman she'd become, strong, loved, certain of her value. "I didn't set out to change anything," she said finally. "I just wanted to survive, to prove them wrong. Everything else that was just ripple effects. But ripples can become waves." "I suppose they can." When Rose was 65, Caleb got sick. Lung fever, the kind mountain winters brought, the kind that killed men his age. Hope came immediately, brought medicine, stayed for weeks, but they all knew. Caleb was dying. On his last night he took Rose's hand. "No regrets?" he asked. "None. You? Just that I didn't get more time." "We got 25 years. That's more than most people get." "Still not enough." Rose climbed into bed beside him, held him close. "Tell me again," he whispered. "About the storm, about the shelter, about the night everything changed." So Rose told him their story, the one they'd lived together, about 2 broken people finding wholeness in each other, about a baby that shouldn't exist, about proving the world wrong. Caleb died with a smile on his face, and Rose buried him beside Catherine, under the pine tree he'd loved. 2 wives, 1 husband. No jealousy, just gratitude that they'd all found him, been loved by him, been changed by him. Rose lived another 15 years after Caleb died, 15 years on the mountain alone. Hope visited weekly, brought the grandchildren, filled the cabin with noise and life. But the evenings were quiet. Rose spent them reading Catherine's poetry, writing in her journal, recording everything for future generations. "This is the truth they won't tell you in history books," she wrote, that sometimes the most revolutionary act is simply refusing to accept other people's definitions. That survival itself is resistance. That one woman saying no can change everything. When Rose was 80, she grew sick. The kind of sick that doesn't get better. Hope moved her to Silver Creek, to a room above the practice, where Rose could hear the sounds of women being helped, being believed, being told the truth. On her last day, Hope sat beside her. "Thank you," Hope said, "for everything. I should thank you. You gave my life meaning. No, you gave me life, against all odds, against all expectations. You chose to have me, and that choice changed the world." Rose smiled. Did it? Look around. Women doctors, women's clinics, second opinions as standard practice, informed consent, medical ethics. That all started because you refused to accept Dr. Blackwell's lie. I just wanted to prove I wasn't broken. And in doing so, you proved millions of women weren't broken either. Rose took her daughter's hand. "Promise me something. Anything. Keep telling the story, not to glorify me, but to remind women that they have power, that their bodies are their own, that no one gets to define them. I promise. And tell them," Rose's breathing grew labored, "tell them it's okay to be scared, okay to be angry, okay to feel broken, as long as they don't let those feelings define them. I will. Good girl." Rose closed her eyes, drifted, and dreamed of the mountain, of Caleb, of a storm and a shelter, and 3 days that changed everything. She died peacefully, surrounded by family, knowing her life had mattered. They buried her on the mountain, beside Caleb, beside Catherine, 3 souls who'd formed one family. And on the headstone, Hope had inscribed Rose Stone 1852 to 1932, told she was barren, proved them wrong, mother-wife revolutionary. She refused to break. 50 years later, Hope's granddaughter, another Rose, stood in front of a medical school auditorium. She was giving a lecture on the history of women's medicine. "It started with one woman," young Rose said, "my great-grandmother, told she could never have children, sold for $50, who had a baby anyway, who confronted the doctor who lied, who changed everything by simply refusing to accept his definition of her worth." She clicked to a photograph. Rose Stone at 60, strong, proud, unbroken. She didn't set out to be a hero. She just wanted to survive, to prove she wasn't broken. But that act of survival became revolution. Because one woman refusing to break gives permission to every woman who comes after her to do the same. Young Rose paused. Let the words sink in. We stand on the shoulders of women like Rose Stone, women who were told they couldn't, and did it anyway, women who were told they were broken, and proved they were whole, women who were told they didn't matter, and changed the world. So when someone tells you you're not enough, when someone says you can't, when someone tries to define your worth by their standards, remember Rose Stone. Remember that your worth is inherent, that your body is your own, that their limitations don't apply to you. And refuse to break. The auditorium erupted in applause, and somewhere on a mountain in Colorado, the wind whispered through pine trees, carrying the story forward into eternity.